Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to the next episode of the Dr. Love Show. My name is Raphael Love, a.k.a. The Doctor. I am here with Carly Thorne. Carly is from Transformations Life Center and a very good friend of mine. And I would like for everyone to batten down the hatches. Get your cell phone out, text a friend. You really need to have your thinking caps on for this one. I'm guaranteeing that this is an episode of the Dr. Love Show that will change your life. We are going to come at you with guns blazing, so prepare yourself. Be you prepared with pen and paper? Be ready to take some notes because we are about to make some things happen. Carly, how are you doing today?
I am doing marvelous, and I am always jazzed to be talking to you, so I am ready.
Awesome. I am feeling the same way. That is one of the reasons why I prepared the listening audience for what's about to take place. Today's topic I am kind of nominating as the topic of change. And why am I nominating the topic of change is because I had a challenge today and yesterday. And that is something that I'm going to first and foremost, before we even get really deep into things, I'm going to put myself out there and hold myself accountable. Today I had to stop and remind myself of the key to life, I will call it. And that is that the definitions of what things mean to me are completely up to me. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I had a couple challenges of things that were beyond my control, and I made them personal. And I realized that by making them personal, I was losing. Once I reminded myself of that one little magic nugget, the day immediately took a turn for the better, and everything else just kind of went away. Has something like that ever happened to you?
Oh, absolutely. I think we should address the 4 agreements. So I'm just going to list them. I'm going to put them right out there, and then we can go from there. So the book, The 4 Agreements, is just an absolute must-read. And the 4 agreements, although there is a 5th book that's called The 5th Agreement, we're going to focus on the 4. And the first one is be impeccable with your word. The second one is don't take anything personally, which is exactly what you're talking about, and we'll go back to that. Don't make assumptions, which also addresses what you just brought up, and always do your best. So if we go back to don't take anything personally and don't make assumptions, that addresses exactly what you were just saying. In other words, if we're having an argument with a loved one or a business partner, and again, their perspective is exactly that. It is their perspective. If we allow ourselves to take whatever they're saying personally, we go to the space of emotional chaos. And in that state, we actually take ourselves out. And we go to this place of judgment of others. We go to a place of judgment of self. And it just creates something that's completely unnecessary. The world needs to understand that 2 people can have opinions, and neither or are right or wrong. We have to learn to agree to disagree sometimes, because in that, new things, new awareness, new growth, change, as you just said, can arrive from that place.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. I mean, like I said, once I kind of clued into that and kind of reminded myself of that, because I was really feeling strong that I'm right. Oh, my God, I know I'm right. But then when I let it go for a minute, just little second, and thought about it, I realized that I'm the one that was applying that definition of being right, of what I was feeling, of what was happening at that moment in time. I was making all those rules, and I was making them on the fly, which is not really necessarily a good thing for a person to do, is make rules on the fly, because rules are subject to be broken. But if you live in a land of flexibility, you have more options to adjust and not get caught up and not set yourself up to be hurt or fail or anything like that.
And the thing that you address in terms of flexibility, I always give the visual for people of a tree. You know, a tree has the most amazing, strong trunk, yet it has these beautiful, long limbs. And imagine, if you will, that we, you know, in nature, right, we have storms, we have hurricanes. If the trees weren't able to flex and move and have their branches sway with the storms and the wind, we would have no trees on this planet. You know, so if you can just visualize that, you know, visualize that we're just strong beings and we have this strong core, and it's actually ebb and flow with the universal energy and ebb and flow with the things that come to us and happen to us, you would be much more centered beings. We would be much happier in life because we weren't taking things so personally. And the other thing I wanted to address was, along what you just said, because I think it's very key and vital to this, is don't make assumptions. When we are talking to somebody and they're telling us something, the assumption that they're wrong, or the assumption, we don't know what they're going through in that moment. We don't know what they grew up with. We don't know what values they were raised with, or what values or faith or any of those things that they have within themselves. So when we go to put assumptions in there, it really disrupts even more of that chaotic energy, and we're assuming things that we really have no clue about. It's like you have said in previous conversations that me and you have had about walking a mile in someone else's shoes. You never know in that moment where someone's at. You're in the car, for example, and someone cuts you off, and you're like just lunatically mad on some level. You have no idea that person's running to the hospital to have a baby delivered. You don't know if they got a phone call, a loved one dying and is in the ER. You have no idea what that being is going through in that moment. And if we can just let go of assumptions and we can let go of judgment and just be and smile at the person, you'd be surprised how your life will shift and change. And I know you've had those experiences.
Oh, yeah. I've lived those experiences, especially when I was in corporate America. Thankfully, I'm no longer in corporate America. I realized that the mentality of not making assumptions had actually extended my career in corporate America, because at one point in time, I was literally and figuratively making myself sick, assuming what was going to happen next. And also, too, there was some habits that I had back in the day where I would say, if this happens, then that means this. So, in other words, if I got to work on time and I could get to my desk and nobody interrupted me, I knew I was going to have a good day. And I was living under that for days and days and days till it almost became a habit. Then one day I just kind of said, where did all that come from? And I just started to ask questions of, what can I do to make the day better that I had control over, as opposed to leaving it subject to all these random possibilities kind of linking up into some mystical order, and just say, what can I do to take ownership of my day to make it the best day it possibly can be? And when I made that decision, when I started to consciously put forth that energy and effort, things started to happen that I could not even begin to explain. I started to meet people. Things were happening at the job that were wonderful in the midst of chaos. And I really began to really fall back in love with my life. And everything's been much better and much improved ever since. And that's one of the reasons why I do this show, is because I just love the feeling that I had. And I wish that more people could experience it.
And it's exactly true. I mean, when you're happy within yourself and you're happy with what you're doing and you're passionate and you love what you do, people can feel that. They know when you're like just bored. They know when you're not in a space of loving what you do. And it generally really affects your business relationships. It affects your home life. And people just don't get that. And it's a real shame. And I just wish upon everybody that they find what they love to do, that they find their passion, and they go out and embrace that and find a way to create abundance from that. Because when you do what you love, the universe will find ways and to create that abundance for you. It is an amazing universe out there. And that is the whole thing about the sharing and the collaboration and the networking. You have to share what you're doing. You have to be able to be willing to put yourself out there and not hoard your ideas and not hoard your business principles or hoard what it is exactly that you are creating. Because if you don't put it out there, how is it that people are going to know to align with you? How are people going to know to join your team if you're so afraid of someone stealing your idea or stealing your business? There is an abundance of people out there, an abundance of businesses that there's enough for everybody. And everybody's going to resonate with someone differently anyway. So there could be, thousands of businesses that are coaching, and there are. All the people out there are going to go to the coach that resonates with them. Therefore, there is more than enough for everybody. And if people would just get that, this world would be a very different place.
Very much.
And I know you agree with that statement.
I agree with that completely. And the thing is that leads me to conscious co-creation. Does that resonate for you?
My favorite term, yay! It's actually called creative conscious co-creation. And I am in the middle of, with my cameraman, when we're going around doing all the interviews that I do, we are actually asking people 3 phrases, and we're doing an amazing montage right now. So I always ask the questions, what does the phrase learn, play, grow mean to you? What does the phrase cocoon to flight mean to you? And what does the phrase creative, conscious, co-creation mean to you? And it is amazing to hear people's responses when I ask specifically the phrase learn, play, grow. People know obviously what learning is. They obviously know on some level what growth is. Play, us adults, we have forgotten how to play. Look at a child. They have the most vivid imaginations. And bottom line, when we're playing, that's when we learn the most. And of course, we're amazing beings that have free will. And we have a choice to grow. Not everyone's going to want to grow. They may have an experience and an aha moment and go, hey, I'm not going there. Screw that. That's just way too difficult. They stay in their little comfort zone. They stay in this status quo, in this rut. And they are not willing to put themselves out there. They are not willing to grow. So it has absolutely been amazing, the responses that I've gotten. And I can't wait to share the clips with you. We just had the most amazing interviews around those 3 phrases. So I'm going to ask you that question. I'm going to do the exact same thing I do with others. What does the phrase learn, play, grow mean to you?
The phrase learn, play, grow, what it means to me is, first, of course, is learning. I am forever a student as well as a teacher. I will learn until they close the box in on me. And that's the reason for me is I don't know everything. And the more that I do know, the better I can integrate my knowledge with what I'm already doing and with what I'm already aware of and making a regular habit in my life. Thus, my life improves. Play means you get to let your hair down. Me, I'm bald, so I can't really let my hair down. But I can actually have fun learning, playing, and growing, which then leads to growth. Growth is the application of the other 2 in a sensible fashion. What that means is that I don't have so much learning focus that I don't play. And I don't play so much that I miss the opportunities to learn. The combination of the 2 allow me to grow and become a better person. That would be my definition of learn, play, grow.
So what is vision for yourself? What is your vision for you?
My vision for me. One of my visions is to elevate this podcast to that of a television show or a combination of podcast and television show, as well as being able to teach and train individuals who, the thought process for me is that there's a group of people who are looking for something different but haven't done the deep dive work of self-improvement to improve their options and better their opportunities in life. So I'm looking to be able to be the liaison between those who don't know into the world of those who do know so that they can actually gain some insight and possibility to new options and things that they can do that are so primary and basic that they could change not only their lives, but the lives of those individuals around them.
So that's going to lead me to my second question for you. Share with us, I think it'd be wonderful people to know, what is your vision for the world?
My vision for the world. Wow, that's an awesome question. My vision for the world is that I would start off by a mentality of paying it forward. There are so many lives right now that are living less than they possibly can because they just don't know any better. And there are other individuals who do, but they're living a life of, well, it's about me. And I'm good, so the other people, whatever happens, happens. In my perfect world, or my vision for the world, is where those people who can at least help one person see the possibility of doing something larger and bigger than themselves and actually having that process repeat itself. If that were to happen, the world would then become focused on growth as opposed to contraction and selfishness and starvation that a lot of the situations that we see in regular news and television that we see today. And it would become a more enlightened community globally. That would be my vision.
So you said something that was really key that I definitely want to address. I just spent an entire day with Charlie Johnson, who is the founder of payitforwardexperience.org. And we did the most amazing 2-hour interview with him. Also, we later went on to, well, actually, let me back up. We started the day by filming a Pay It Forward yoga instructor who basically once a week, she teaches a free yoga class. The people that take the class, their exchange is to do something that is a pay it forward, whatever that is to them. It could be, paying something for someone. It could be, donating something. It could be helping someone, whatever that means to them. And then we went and interviewed Charlie for 2 hours. It was the most amazing, deep conversation that he's even ever had. On top of which, later in the evening, we went to a Pay It Forward event that was thrown for him at the Secret Garden out in Moore Park, California. And we got to interview 3 of the students from the high school. They've created a club, and so we got to actually, literally interview each of the girls who had been the president of this club for the past 2 years. And we actually got to also interview the girl that actually got passed the baton for this upcoming year in August. And one of the things that was really brilliant was, what is Pay It Forward and what is it not? So I'm going to address what I feel that is. I want you to share with everybody, what does the term Pay It Forward mean to you?
The term Pay It Forward means to me is a simple concept of, I am doing something for you without any expectation of it coming back to me at all. All I ask of you is that you do the same. That is my global concept of what Pay It Forward means.
So here was the interesting part, a lot of things that came up. Because, a lot of people do not like the terminology of Pay It Forward. They equate it as that people took something and feel guilty, and therefore, that once a year they go feed somebody. And it's like, okay, great. You fed someone on Christmas. What about the other 364 days? You cleaned out your closet. Great. What about the other 364 days a year? So one of the things that came out of this whole day and literally getting clear to people, and this is what I'm going to address too. We said we were going to discuss the 4 agreements. So one of the agreements is be impeccable with your word, right? So let's take that, Pay It Forward. What people don't understand, we're not asking you to change the world. We are asking you on a daily basis to do something every single day that changes someone's life on some level. It could be that, like I said, someone cut you off in the car and you smiled at them and you have no idea what that did for them. It could be being at the bank teller and you had this exchange and that person's had the crappiest day and you paid them a compliment and just totally made their day. It could be that homeless. My point is, where I'm going with this is, it's not just the underprivileged people that need a Pay It Forward. And to me, it's also, this whole terminology of hand up, hand out. You never know where people are. And I personally like to do the hand up because I want to give people valuable tools to help them grow. The terminology of enabling for me is not as empowering. Now, that's not to say that you pass a homeless person and you're like, oh, screw them. They must, want to be here. You never know what that person's been through or where they've been or why they are there. So I just want to really address the fact that the Pay It Forward movement is a global situation where imagine a world that every single person on a daily basis did do something kind every single day to a family member, to a neighbor, to someone that might be underprivileged, who does not have all the beautiful, opportunities that you have, or, the roof over the head or food in their belly. Doing that 365 days a year. If every single human being had that mindset, imagine the world we would be in. That is powerful.
Yes, it is. And I'm looking forward to that becoming more prevalent in today's society. I would love to see the day where individuals, just smiled because they could and just did something nice, not for a reason, but just because it's the right thing to do. I mean, for me, for example, I was on the phone that happened to be calling a company for a problem that I was having. And when the rep answered the phone, I do what I always do, which is basically say, how was your day today? And it caught this one person so off guard. They were, what did you say? I was asking you how your day was. And the fact that I asked that question, the individual just, I could tell that they were flustered. And I'm sure they may have been embarrassed, but they began to laugh and joke, and it was an entertaining conversation, even though I was calling with a problem. I mean, I guess the fact that they're dealing with issues all day, every day, so for somebody to take the time, and that's all it was just time, to ask that simple question made that individual's day better. And I think that kind of falls right in line with what you were just talking about.
Absolutely. And it is. It's amazing how we don't realize how we affect people's lives. I used to work with this lady back in 2004 to 2006, and she worked for a big company, and I had a guy that I worked for that I handled a lot of, and I have obviously non-disclosure agreements, so I can't really get into names, and I'm going to just say that when I called this woman, even if it was a crisis, every time I called, I was high energy. Hi, how are you, miss, whatever, right? And come to find out later, and we just personally met face-to-face recently, and it was the most amazing, hugging, loving, like, oh, my God, and she shared with me that she could be having the crappiest day, and when I called, it was just my energy and my level of enthusiasm. And even when I was calling her for a very critical, timely, critical thing, I still always had this space where I was coming from. She's like, so many times I was like literally almost on the verge of tears, and I'd be like, you would call, and he always kind of knew when to call, which she would say, which is really odd, and completely shift my perspective for the day. And so we don't know. We just don't know what people are going through. And we just really need to be from that mindset that every time we're communicating with someone, that we really come from that space of being impeccable with our word, because you just don't know where someone's at. And I do want to touch on the impeccable word thing, because our word is law in many ways. Now, I also have to address the fact that, again, like you said earlier, sometimes you don't have control over situations. So, yes, our word is law. And if you say you'll be someplace at 1 o'clock, be there at 1 o'clock. However, I understand universally that sometimes things happen. However, you can also, this is about clear communication. Now, the other person on the other end, let's say you get there at it's 1 o'clock and you're not there yet. If they go to the land of assumptions, this person's not reliable, this person da-da-da-da-da, it's our responsibility as the other person to communicate clearly where we are at.
Exactly.
Text them, call them. I'm sorry, I'm stuck in traffic. Justice went down. My grandmother had a heart attack, and there's this stuff going on. This goes back to that integrity thing of being in alignment where you are. I'll give you another example. Borrowing money from someone, and you say, I'm going to pay you back by this time. Again, if you gave money to somebody, and you're coming from the space of, well, I gave this to this person, and therefore they owe me this, and they necessarily didn't pay you on that day, before you go jumping all over them and calling them bad, thieves, all these words, find out what is going on. That's what I'm saying. It's a two-way communication. It is not a one-way communication. Don't assume that person is trying to screw you over. And that's why I say try, because universally, when we put this stuff out there, we don't get what we're creating. And if you're coming from that space of fear and lack, and this person's going to screw me over, and that person this to me, and that person this to me, that's what you're going to create in your life. And so it's vitally important to be impeccable with your word. And I love the terminology, compassionate, passionate communications. Because you can be blatantly honest and coming from a space of love and being honest with where you're at, you're going to get a lot more in life than the secrets and the hidden agendas and the IOUs, energy, than being in the space of clear communication. Now, the funny part is, clear communication, again, don't make assumptions. We'll go back to 4 agreements again. Not everybody understands what that term means either. So what one person's version of clear communication may be entirely different to another being. So it's quite fascinating. And so that's where I'm going to come at you with. I'm going to come at you with the question, because this ties in all of this. What does the term creative, conscious co-creation mean to you?
Creative, conscious co-creation. Let me ponder that for a second here. I would say that creative conscious co-creation would be sharing of ideas consciously to create something greater, that just in the simplest form. And the thing is that with you and I and some of the work that we've done, the thought process is coming into it, bringing what you're good at or bringing your skill set without expectation of I'm going to do this and only this. Bringing it with a thought of openness and a thought of sharing in collaboration to really, truly bring something new out of the connection. That would be my definition of it.
So I'm going to expand on that because we've just been addressing the 4 agreements. What I would like to put out there is it takes to create anything in life, to manifest anything in life. It takes massive amounts of creativity. It also takes being grounded. It takes being awake. It takes being conscious. If you're unconscious, you have no idea what's going on, you are not going to create anything. And the co-creational part is, again, you and I, we can't create for our clients. We can't create for the viewers. We can co-create with the viewers. We can co-create with others. And so that's that piece of really getting out to the universe that and again, like you just said, the sharing of ideas, of issues, of everything in life. The more that we're willing to share, the more we are able to co-create with others. So that is just such a huge thing. And I just really wish that all the viewers really get that it takes teamwork to make the dreams work. I'm going to go with you one deeper. Mm-hmm. That one more deep one for you. What does cocoon to flight mean to you?
Cocoon to flight is the evolution of one's life from where you were to where you want to be. And it's a simile to that of the life of the butterfly, from borderline being a slug to a beautiful creature of flight, and the transition between the two.
So can you see how the 3 phrases I asked you questions about, actually asked you a total of 5, what was your vision for self, for others, learn, play, grow, creative conscious co-creation, and cocoon to flight, how that actually all ties in with the 4 agreements? Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best.
Yes, I can see that. I can see that very much so. Because those connections between each one of those questions, and if you're using the 4 agreements in each step of the process, you have a more holistic experience coming out of it. And I can only assume, through the fact that I haven't gone through the process completely myself, that you would become a better person by taking your time and going through it, to integrating each one of those phases as something you do on a consistent basis to elevate your life experience on the other side of doing all those things regularly.
Absolutely. And so I would like to share one more analogy that I think will actually kind of wrap up everything we kind of discussed. And I'm going to use the analogy from the cocoon to flight. And so I look at it from a perspective of cocoon. Let's stick with the cocoon for a second. We were all in a womb for 9 months, okay? We may have an idea, and it might take a year for that idea to form and be created to actually become flight. So when I look at the word or the terminology cocoon to flight, I look at it as every single day I will wake up in the morning and, the thought of something may come into your mind, right? And so for however long that time is, you're actually gestating, you're germinating the idea or the project or whatever that is. And then, again, beings of free will, every single day, we have a choice whether to give birth, which is the flight part, or abort our mission. For example, let's say someone's at an actual real job for 8 hours. And at the beginning of the day, they said, I'm going to go to the gym at the end of the day. So for 8 hours, they've been gestating the thought or germinating the ideas. After I get off work, I'm going to go to the gym. Now, again, being to free will. At the end of those 8 hours when he's done with work, he has 2 options. He's either going to give birth, take flight, and go to the gym, or I'm tired, I'm cranky, I just don't have the energy to go to the gym, or he is not going to take flight and he's going to abort his mission. So I really love that whole analogy of cocoon to flight because it applies in every single aspect of your life. Every single day you have the gestational period of something, and then you have the choice whether to make that manifested in your life, make it a reality or not. How does that sound to you?
That sounds totally awesome. I mean, I love the fact that an individual has tools like this at the ready to be able to really bring about the change that we're talking about in this episode. And it's just the thought process of making sure that you see those thoughts that you're building on and over the span of a day, like the example that you gave of going to work out. Like for me, in some of the previous episodes, it's like that 100-day challenge. It's only 15 minutes a day for 100 days, walking for 15 minutes a day. I mean, if you can do that, you're building success habits that you can literally build on for the rest of your life because you've always got that win of that 15 minutes. You getting up, whether you get up early and do the 15 minutes or at the end of the day you do the 15 minutes. As long as you're doing it every single day, as long as you're doing it more often than not, you will win. So I really I thank you, Carly, for just sharing that. It really meant a lot to me.
Well, I just thought, we had the pre-frame earlier. We had the conversation what we were going to talk about, and we were going to address the 4 agreements because of, something that came up for you. And I just really thought that those 3 phrases really tie in so beautifully with it. And I was just wanting to really share with everybody how they can really take those phrases and create such beautiful new things from it, and actually really ponder on those 3 thoughts, those 3 phrases for themselves. What do those 3 phrases mean for them? For them to actually look at their own life and actually ask those 5 questions. What is your vision for yourself? Because here's the thing. If you don't have an individual vision, you just have a global vision, they may overlap in some ways. However, you have to have your own identity. You have to have your own vision. You can't, it's like when you go on the airplane, they say, put the mask on yourself first and then put it on a child. If you're not present for yourself and your vision, you will not have the energy and the capacity to actually be there for a global vision. You will burn out fast. So I really invite everybody to ask these 5 questions. What is your vision for yourself? What is your vision for the world? What do the phrases learn, play, grow mean to you? What does the phrase cocoon to flight mean to you? What does the phrase creative, conscious co-creation mean to you? Now, mind you, creative, conscious co-creation, this isn't like spirituality, mumbo-jumbo woohoo, okay? We are a massive field of energy. We are a massive collective on many, many levels, more than anyone can possibly, even think. We are interconnected. How many times have you met someone and you don't know, you instantly hate them or love them and you have no idea why? How many times have you gone to answer that phone and you intuitively knew who it was, and you picked up the phone and you were just thinking about that person and it was that person on the other line? How many times have you been to some place and you're like, wow, I feel like I've been here before? Now, whatever it is to you, I don't care if you're an atheist, if you believe in God, if you believe in Jesus, you're Jewish, you're Catholic, I don't care what you are. On some level, you have an idea of something. So whatever that term spirituality means to you, or whatever that term consciousness means to you, get out of your own way and stop labeling things and just be with it. And just ask yourself those questions, and you will be shocked at your responses, what comes up for you. And that's my invitation. That's where I'm going to close. That is my invitation to your entire audience. And I'd love to hear your closing phrases.
Well, thank you. I would say in closing of this episode, I love the fact that, one, I have to thank you for coming out to the show today. I have to do that first and foremost. I really appreciate the thoughts that you've shared. It is nice to be able to have a conversation with someone as opposed to just me talking on the show. Secondly, the thought process is that of be an owner of your life. The thoughts that we shared today in this episode, any one thing can be that one key that helps you turn the lock of your life and open up a wealth of opportunity to change, grow, and become more than you've experienced thus far. Or be able to bridge that gap for you to be able to have that conversation with that person that you've really been struggling with. If you can embrace anything out of this episode, do it. Grab it, hold on to it, get the juice from it, and make it part of your life. Because there are all these wonderful opportunities surrounding us every day. It's just waiting for you to take advantage of it. That would be what I would close with on that.
And I have to say, I can't wait to learn, play, and grow with you next week. I look forward to sharing with everybody next week with the wonderful Dr. Love.
And that would be the end of this episode. I look forward to the next episode of the Dr. Love Show. And be sure to subscribe through iTunes. Just look for Raphael, Dr. Love.